That's right, my friends. It is mid-October, I suppose, by the time you see this. So we are going to try and predict the Survivor Series 2024 card before it makes sense. And as you know, if you've watched my other videos like this, I'm pretty bad at predicting these things. But I think WWE has made it very clear that our super duper mega main event is going to be the Bloodline Civil War. Like on the Raw that aired on the 14th of October, whenever that was, we saw Jimmy Uso turn up at Raw, because he's allowed to do that now because of the Saudi Arabia shows, and say to Jay, me and Roman need some help, and Jay just said no, man, and he walked off. Now, by the time you see this video, I think Jay Uso is actually going to lose that Intercontinental Championship, which will probably do something to his tum-tum in order for him to go back and help Roman Reigns. The reason I want this is because of the pop. And right after this, do you know who they're going to recruit, who, by the way, just happened to not be on television recently? Sami Zayn. And if pro wrestling is about moments, which WWE loves the most, this is going to bring tears and get them to come out of my seeing device. We all remember how good they were a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, whenever the flub it was. So seeing them come back together, where they can be all nicey nice and lovey-dovey because they're good guys now, as ridiculous as that is just going to be wonderful. So no longer do you have to sort of hush your passions and hush your cheers. You will be allowed to go crazy for them, and they're going to be taking on the Bloodline 2.0, which will be Solo Sikoa, the Tongans, and Jacob Fatu. For a while, I thought it was going to be 5-on-5, but I actually think that Cody Rhodes has started to feud with Kevin Owens to take them out of this, and that's probably the best thing to do. It all kind of ties into whatever The Rock is going to do. I don't think he's going to appear on Survivor Series, but I do think eventually he's going to go, ta-da! It was me who was behind the Bloodline 2.0, and that's how you were able to hire Tama Tonga and Tangaloa and Jacob Fatu. So when they first debuted, the story behind them was, how did they get here? We were always told they were too dangerous to hire. Well, The Rock basically runs the company these days. So that's going to be interesting. So the Bloodline 2.0 lose. Is that why The Rock comes back? He's like, man, if you want to do a job, you got to do it yourself. You guys absolutely suck. And if the original Bloodline do win, is that the end of it? I do not know. But I think that is going to be the main event. That's going to be the marketing that we build the whole thing around. And I think it's going to be absolutely tremendous. I really do. I'm super duper exciting, and they'll have that moment, as all war games basically do, when one bloodline will be on one side of the ring and the other bloodline will be on the other side of the ring. They'll be looking at each other because everyone is now officially in the match, so the bell can ring, and they are just going to tear lumps out of each other. And genuinely, you can pick your victory. It all depends on what we're going to do at WrestleMania, because now there's rumors of a triple threat with The Rock and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, or maybe The Rock isn't doing WrestleMania and then we go back to Cody versus Roman. This is going to be totally wild, and you could still put Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens in it. Let's not forget that now. I mean, Kevin Owens teaming with the new bloodline would be a bit dumb. But if you did want to make it 5-on-5, those two would kind of finish the dots. But I think that's absolutely going to be on this show. Mostly because if you don't do it here, when are you going to do it? And it is the best story, the best feud, the best narrative we have for a War Games. And I don't think WWE would let that opportunity slide. So even though it doesn't make sense at the moment, I am putting this one down as an almost certainty. And if we don't do it, I mean, what the hell are we going to do instead? I wouldn't even know. Now, of course, last year, and maybe the year before, I can't remember, but definitely in 2023, we did 2 War Games matches. Now, I'm not a fan of this. I think you should pick or choose depending on the story. I do think Triple H gets that too. I mean, look what he did with the Drew and CM Punk Hell in a Cell. But there is a lot of discourse at the moment about parity and balance and making sure that everyone gets their opportunities. So I think you're probably going to get another War Games on the Bloodline show too. What am I talking about? On the Survivor Series show too? I've got it written down here. I'm not 100% sure who the leader of the teams would be, so I've kind of made this up. But I do think it's going to be a Team Bayley or something like that versus a Team Nia Jax. And a Team Bayley can obviously be Bayley, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Michin, because we have been pushing her, which would also tie into the fact that Team Nia Jax would be Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, because that's her friend, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, because of course they've been feuding with Michin, and they turned up last week with the tag team title stuff. And I would actually put Blair Davenport in there. Now listen, there's a lot of other people we could shift around. You may want to try and sneak the Unholy Union in there. But Blair Davenport has not featured as much as she needs to ever since she has been called up. And she does have this feud with Naomi. And I think in order to make sure we can establish her as part of the women's roster on SmackDown, you put her in a match like this and you go crazy with her. You let her do some big spots. She doesn't have to win, doesn't have to lose or anything like that. I mean, she could take the pin should you so wish. It depends on where the story goes after this. But I think because that slot is kind of open, given that numerous people could fit in there and you could tie it into the narrative, I would give Blair Davenport her opportunity, because at the moment I think it's been been a bit hit and miss. We don't need any more NXT call-ups that don't sort of have a big full stop on it. And listen, that would probably be a really good match. I mean, Michin and Chelsea Green had that dumpster thing that was awesome. Piper Niven will probably do something crazy as well. And then you can continue to tease the Money in the Bank stuff with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax that we have been doing. And you could even tease something with Bayley and Naomi, because it does feel like something's going to happen there. And Naomi obviously beat Tiffany Stratton recently too. So I think that would be good. It's a way to get them all on the card. And again, I actually have 6 matches here, so I'm breaking WWE's model, but you'll see why. I'm actually confused about what we are going to do, but it does get more people on the card, and that's the best thing about having 2 of these multi-person matches. It opens the door to do something like that, and I think it would be good. It would be good if everybody in there could get some highlights here and get some spots which can bleed into Raw and SmackDown, and of course the world title picture between, at the moment now, Tiffany Stratton and a bunch of others. Yes, and the reason I don't think you'll get some other women in there is because I think you'll get Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. Don't know what we do with Dominic Mysterio, but I think there has to be a super stipulation here. Maybe it's a hardcore match, a street fight. I mean, that's not going to be TLC. That wouldn't make any sense. But I think you want to make it a bit more violent than the other matches have been. Because the shark cage was fun, and obviously it was a stipulation, but it was silly too. I mean, we had Dominic Mysterio hanging from that thing, and bless that guy. So I think you want weapons, which is a dumb thing to say, and almost kind of reductive when it comes to professional wrestling. But I think Rhea Ripley should win the title here. I think she should win it back leading into 2025. And I think Liv Morgan has to get hers because she's the bad guy and she's been pretty much terrible throughout 2024, or at least post-WrestleMania, right? She has to get hers. And you probably could save this to the Raw Rumble, but I think by that point there's probably other things that we can do depending how many matches are going to be on there. And also I think you run the risk of maybe stretching out a little bit too much. But you have had the addition of Raquel Rodriguez, which begs the question what we do there. But I think you probably want a title change as well, and I don't see anyone else happening on here. So yeah, I think you get Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan too. And then you have a good, is the right word representation? I don't know, forgive me if it's not, but a good representation of women. And you want to make sure that you get balance, right? You want to bring balance to the force. And this would see, again, Jade Cargill, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Michin, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Blair Davenport, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Raquel Rodriguez, essentially, and then Dominic Mysterio just behind them going, ha ha, I'm an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to throw that in there too, so we're up to 3 matches. I'll leave this one till last, because I don't think that one's going to get in there now. I think you're going to have 2 World Championship matches as well, because I do think the WWE wants to build up the Survivor Series as a super duper whooper major card. CM Punk versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, I think, is a lock. CM Punk teased this before Drew McIntyre tried to kill him again. Everybody on the internet is talking about it, and sometimes there's no smoke without fire. And the interesting part is I don't think CM Punk wins at Survivor Series, so that would be an interesting thing to do. I mean, he did lose at SummerSlam, but that was shenanigans and a lot of nonsense when it came to Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. Is it something to do with Seth? Because CM Punk's going to feud with him at WrestleMania. And also, you have a natural story there. It's been 1 year since Punk did return at Survivor Series 2023 in Chicago. Obviously, this one's in Canada. But I think that crowd, well, Canadian crowds are wonderfully crazy. Maybe they boo CM Punk and cheer Gunther. I don't think they would do. But it's one to keep your eye on. I think the promos would be awesome. I think CM Punk is on a tear right now. He really is having another renaissance in his career, which he seems to do all of the time. And it does have a sense of jeopardy. You can have CM Punk win the World Championship. You really can. And I don't think many people are going to be mad. It will create discourse, and some people will probably be a little bit irked by it. But it would be an amazing story point, and it would tell you do not know what's going to happen, which is the secret sauce of professional wrestling. We'll get into the predictions nearer the time, but I would assume that Gunther would hold on to that. Unless that's where you can do the Goldberg thing, I wouldn't do that. I think that's way, way, way too messy, given the individuals that are involved. But I do think it's going to be on the Survivor Series card, and I do think it's going to feel like a massive match, and I think that potentially that's not even the main event. But when you have CM Punk looking at Gunther and Gunther looking at CM Punk, I think the fans are going to come alive, and maybe they even steal the main event's thunder. I think they have that power, which could be the same for Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes too. Now, we have to do that match, and I've been scratching my head. Do we do it at Survivor Series? Is Kevin Owens going to get involved at Crown Jewel? Do you hold it off for a Saturday Night's main event? Do you hold it off for the first Raw on Netflix? Again, these are going to be huge shows. Do we wait until the Raw Rumble? I mean, probably not, because I think Kevin Owens should be in the Raw Rumble. But you have to do that match. You have to get it. And why would Cody Rhodes want to wait that long either? Kevin Owens attacked him out front of his bus. But it would mean, again, you have a main event, which is the Bloodline, which, again, will definitely create some controversy with some people. But you also have 2 world championships on the same show. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it actually makes more sense to hold one of those off for a TV show or a bigger show, whatever you want to do, so you keep the momentum going. Because my last match I had on here, I had more. Then I realized I had 6, so I have to reduce it to 5. is the three-way for the US title. I think Bron Breakker's already going to have won the IC belt back from Jey Uso, so you don't need to do it here. But we're definitely going to do LA Knight versus Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes. Do we do that at Saudi Arabia? It hasn't been announced yet, but we have been heavily teasing it. Would you rather do it here? Maybe change the championship? You could do that too. Probably give it to Carmelo Hayes, to be completely honest with you. I don't know, but it's massively interesting. And now I'm talking about it. Again, it was so early. It's the whole point. It's before it makes sense. But you could take the US title trio off there and do it at Crown Jewel. You could take Cody and Kevin off there and do it somewhere else. I think CM Punk versus Gunther is going to happen. I think the War Games matches are going to happen. And I think the Women's World Championship is going to happen. So I don't know. And of course, would involve Nia Jax elsewhere down the card, as well as the Women's Tag Team Championships. I would love it if they could actually get defended every single month, but that's just not how WWE does business. But the fact, or I guess one of the benefits of having these smaller cards, is you can start to Tetris and Jenga it, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, there is a wealth of content here that can be put anywhere, meaning the end of 2024 is going to be super interesting, and going into 2025 is interesting as well. Where's Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed? Is that a television match? Are we doing that at Crown Jewel? This is probably why we shouldn't start talking about things at the end of November, in the middle of October. But I know I'm excited about it. And as WWE, like I say, they probably want the Royal Rumble to go 2 nights. SummerSlam is already officially 2 nights. WrestleMania is as well. I wouldn't surprise me if, given that you want to do the double War Games, you can do Survivor Series as well. But the only way to do that is to build that name back up where people do get excited about it. I mean, 15 years ago, Vince McMahon was going to kill the Survivor Series until he got talked out of it. But I can see a world in 2027, 28, 29, where the big 4, as we know them, do happen over 2 nights. And again, the Rumble and Survivor Series with the War Games are totally justified by that, but you need big things now, so people in their head, and I guess it's already headed that way. Last year, amazing War Games match and CM Punk, and this year, maybe based off the back of that, tickets were so damn expensive. I think the cheapest ticket was like $350, which is totally nuts, but I guess there must be worth to it because people bought them. But you put this kind of card on, like CM Punk versus Gunther, it's not even the main event, maybe the culmination of the Bloodline story that's been going on since 1912, all of a sudden I think you start teaching people in their brains that you need to go to a Survivor Series. So not 2025, but 2026 it could be a double night one as well. So it's going to be awesome. But we'll stick to 5. I'm going to throw off the US 3-way title for all the reasons I just said. So Rhea versus Liv in a super stip, the Bloodline Civil War, CM Punk versus Gunther, Team Bayley versus Team Jax, and Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, which it almost seems like it shouldn't be on this show because it needs more importance. I want Kevin Owens to win the title, and I love Cody Rhodes. He's my favorite, but Kevin Owens just says something to me, and I shouldn't have said it. I now sound like a weirdo. Now, more importantly, you are going to have matches that I have forgotten about because I'm an idiot. Drop them in the comments below, and also tell me how much you think these are likely going to happen and what you'd like to see too. Maybe there's a feud out there that you think should peak at the end of November, and we've totally missed it off here, and we don't want those things to go by the wayside. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about professional wrestling, obviously. If you're into fitness, check out my new gym YouTube channel. It's not up there yet, but it will be very soon. And you can go to grillandmind.com/Simon. You just go to Simon, get 10% off there, basically helping me with this channel as well. So you can just get totally involved. Go to GoGo Fitness, use code Simon20, patreon.com/Simon316. Simon316 on all social media if you want to come and say hello. Simon Miller on Cameo, Simon J. Miller on TikTok, ProWrestlingTees.com. Just search for my name, Simon Miller. And let's get excited about the damn Survivor Series. It was ruined for a while with stupid Raw versus SmackDown. This is way better. I'm pumped. I want to see it. Goodbye.